Hello everyone, I'm Quincy, and today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about some ways that I'm choosing to slow down in my current season in the current culture of rushing and busyness, and how I'm pushing back against that. Like I said, my name is Quincy, and my channel is all about sharing the message of Christ and inspiring and encouraging women to live in their strength and softness as God designed, and just really focusing on ways that we can slow down and lean into our femininity, to honor the Lord and to be a light to those around us. So thank you for being here today. The first way that I'm intentionally trying to slow down is going the speed limit. I was very good at this when I first started driving many years ago already, but I somewhere along the line liked the feeling of going faster, which I'm sure most people experience. I think that something that we utilize is going faster. We go faster to save time, to shave off a couple extra minutes. And honestly, sometimes it does. And I think that I often feel that, oh, I got here just a couple minutes earlier or whatever. And maybe that's true. Maybe sometimes I do get to places earlier or quicker than at a pace that I was wanting to go. I wanted to beat time. But I think I trade my peace by going fast, by going over the speed limit. Not only am I breaking the law, and endangering myself and others by going faster than is necessary, but I also I'm doing just another thing to rush along in my life. And there's rarely a time where I can truly justify it. And when I do try to justify it, it's because I didn't take the time that I had before I got in my car to drive somewhere. I didn't use that time wisely. And so I really need to, in fact, look back on how I can slow the rest of my life down so that I can get into my car on time to drive where I need to go so I don't need to go so fast. My next one is trying to, and I emphasize that, trying not to watch anything while I eat and fully engaging in my food. And this one is really hard because I imagine that in the future, when I don't work a full-time job outside of the home and I get to, do YouTube full-time and work on my business and create art and get to focus more on that, I imagine myself just being able to slow way down and, just having all the slow rhythms of life down. But in reality, like, if I'm not slowing down now in my crazy busy lifestyle, I'm not going to know how to slow down when I do have the opportunity to slow down. I'm just going to fill it with other things. And one of those really big things and really hard things for me is not watching something while I'm eating, because especially like lunchtime, my lunchtime is very like quick, and I gotta get stuff going. And sometimes I have to switch a load of laundry out on my lunch break. But if I just choose to make my lunch and sit outside or sit on the couch or sit at the table and just think or pray or just let my mind wander and not really think about anything in particular, even though there's a lot going on in my mind, I do feel calmer, like a lot calmer. And the rest of the day just has this essence of just like stillness. Whereas if I come home and I make a quick lunch and I'm watching something and I'm intent on that while I'm eating, I'm not really focusing on what I'm eating, and then I jump back up again and I run out the door. Like, it's just rush, 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 rush. There's no break. There's no, it's just constant stimulation. And there's plenty of science that, you know, the digital life is of overstimulation is not good for our brains or our longevity, or our mental space. But we so easily fall into that, and I easily jump into that, but I try to not. And I feel like I have to fight my flesh every time I'm like sitting down and I'm like, I really want to watch that show or that video or even read a book. But at least twice a day, I try to intentionally eat 2 meals without something distracting me from what I'm eating. And I think that is a process. That could possibly be a whole other video of engaging in our food and all the things around that. And I'll definitely be making more videos on health and taking care of our bodies as women and as nurturers, but that's another video. My next one is moving almost every day, but listening to my body instead of following a regimen. And this is important to me because I have bounced around so much over the last several years. I've ridden horses. I played some sports here and there in school. Once I was out of school, I tried to work out like every day for 15, 30 minutes every day before I learned about my cycle and not working out at certain times and pushing myself at other times. But I found that I don't enjoy moving like perfectly according to my cycle. I think that's a good guide, and I'm going to be coming out with a couple videos on cycle syncing in a couple weeks, so watch out for that. But there have been times where I'm in my ovulation phase, and that's typically the point where I can really push myself, and I can't do it. I get super emotional sometimes, and I'll get 5-10 minutes into working out, and I can't handle it. And there could be some hormonal imbalances there. I'm not totally sure, but that's where I think bringing in discipline and listening to my body, our bodies, really comes into play, because if we're not being intuitive while also being disciplined, both can falter. So I try to move almost every day, whether that's walking plus doing some strength training or some dancing, or I usually kind of go by my feelings, like how I'm feeling that day. And a lot of people are probably not in favor of that, but I think it's a journey, especially with all of the different angles people have on working out and the differences between men and women and such like that. So my next one is probably pretty controversial, and I don't do this every time, but not always answering texts right away. I'm good at answering texts right away, but sometimes I choose not to. And when I choose not to, sometimes it's like a full day or 2 or 3. If I'm trying to be intentionally off my phone, it just will not cross my mind that I have, oh yeah, I remember a text coming in. I have a couple pen pals, and I love writing letters. And I've always loved slow communication, and I think we're all used to quick communication. Like, I need a response right now. And I do value that, but I also very much value letting things come at a slow pace, and letting things return at a slow pace. So, number 5 is looking up instead of down, specifically noticing beautiful nature and people, smiling up at the sun. I think, I'll be passing somebody in town on the sidewalk, and they'll either be looking at their phone or they'll be looking down at their feet while they're walking. And it's just sad to me because I enjoy smiling at others and encouraging strangers that way. And, I enjoy when a stranger like gives me a kind smile. It always brightens my day. And so it makes me sad seeing other people not accept that or not even notice that you're smiling at them. Um, or even, I feel like when people are looking down, they just have a demeanor about them that is down and that they're not enjoying life. Yeah, it's just sad, and I want to be somebody who looks up and who's smiling up at the sun and looking at the birds flying through there. And I don't have to be literally looking up, but just like looking around, noticing things, praising the Lord, being grateful, and just smiling just because, smiling at somebody who walks by. I think that's really influential and impactful to people to just smile and to be enjoying life, even if they don't know why, but they can feel that, and I think that's impactful. Number 6 is resting before I feel completely depleted. I think again, these are all slow things that I'm trying to incorporate into my life, but I think that our culture is either like there's either people who are perceived as being extremely lazy, or they are like super hardworking, and usually the people who are super hardworking are praised. And I'm not saying that everybody who rests is being lazy, but I think it can be perceived that way. Nor am I saying that the people who are resting aren't working hard, but I think that culture and status shines when we're working hard, we're doing good, and there's no like work and rest, which is the rhythm that God established. He literally created it into the rhythm and the grain of the universe. And if we're not balancing working hard with also resting, then we're not going to do either of them well. We're not going to show up well. We're not going to be good daughters, good wives. And if a man is watching, good husbands, sons, fathers. But something that Mark Homer said that has really stuck with me in his book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. He said that to practice Sabbath, you have to slow down the rest of the week. And I think that is so true. He describes it like, you're going 90 miles an hour in a car, and then there's a stop sign up ahead, like representing the Sabbath. You can't go 90 miles an hour and then stop, and then go 90 miles an hour and then stop. Like, that's going to be exhausting in and of itself, and you're not going to be able to rest well. And I also think, like, reflecting on Jesus, like, it definitely wasn't like a 50-50, but like he went away to go pray, to go rest, to be alone with the Father, almost as much as he was seen doing, preaching to big crowds and doing miracles. And that was like they practiced weekly Sabbath. So those were times when that was completely separate from the Sabbath. So he was slowing down during the week and not just on Sabbath. And I think that's very significant. And, our culture, our lifestyles are completely different than that time. But again, we're supposed to reflect our lives after Jesus, after the King, after the Creator of our souls, of our lives, and creation. And we honor Him with everything that we do. And I think establishing a rhythm of work, good hard work, and of rest is very important. My 7th one is honoring different energy levels instead of forcing consistency. This one goes with the last one a little bit, but they all kind of go together though. which is important and makes sense. But yeah, I think that especially as women, we need to honor the energy we feel, and not saying like, I don't feel like doing that, like using it as an excuse. I think sometimes we can have a legitimate excuse if we're like extremely tired, um, which I think for the most part we should listen to, because if we're too overly tired, we're not going to be help to everyone in the next several days, if you push yourself too far. Um, and you're just putting burden on your own mind and your own body. Um, so I think honoring different energy levels is really important, and just kind of moving in the flow of that, um, and determining really what is feeling and what is real. Number 8 is keeping fewer things. And so that means like decluttering frequently, having less things to manage. I love decluttering. I love keeping things tidy, and not necessarily like I love keeping things tidy in the way of cleanliness, but I also love just keeping like minimum things, because I think that automatically makes a space feel more tidy, even if it's like, the floors need swept or things need dusted or there's dishes in the sink. Like if everything else has a place and it's in its place, I think it's a lot easier to um, go about doing those other chores and just have a more rested state in general. Number 9 is cleaning here and there. I don't have like a strict schedule I follow. And when I first was a wife, I wanted to have that. And like, I dreamed of the day when I was a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom, could have like, Monday I clean the kitchen and I wipe down all of the appliance fronts, and I wipe down the microwave, like all of these different things. And Tuesday I clean all the bathrooms and I scrub the showers, and just like all of these different things. And I tried that a little bit, even though I was working quite a bit when we first got married, but it's a lot to keep up on. And honestly, it's not my highest priority. I do like keeping things tidy, but I would rather have peace than constantly be cleaning. And so things are just okay. They're not spotless and sparkling, but they're comfy. So I'm okay with that. Number 10 is not using a microwave. We have a microwave, and I used it, but I have decided a couple weeks ago that I'm just not going to use it anymore. So that means like on my lunch break, if I have leftovers, I'll either eat them cold, which isn't terrible, um, or I'll warm them up in a pan, or I'll make something fresh. So it takes longer. It's not nearly as convenient, but there's just too many things about the microwave that make me nervous. And it's just like it's fast, and I'm trying to slow down, so it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit that appeal of slowness and unhurrying my life. Um, Number 11 is soaking grains and using old-fashioned methods for complete digestion. I don't have a sourdough starter at the moment. I did, but I think it died. It's in the fridge. So I just use like the old-fashioned methods of souring by using like apple cider vinegar, like a little bit of apple cider vinegar, or kefir, or yogurt, or buttermilk, sour raw milk. I use all raw dairy products. I think that it's really important, especially in our day and age, that we prepare things correctly. And I'm sure I'll talk more about this in a future video, but briefly, I will say that, animals' defenses are fight or flight, like us humans. But plants' defenses are in their outer shell. So if it's like a seed or a nut or whatever, like they have certain chemicals in them that protect them from being eaten in the future. Because they're trying to protect their seed, they're trying to protect their babies, and I mean that's how God designed it to be for reproduction, for everything. And so proper preparation with, a warmer environment and an acidic element helps break down the outer walls of the seeds or the nuts or the grains, whatever it is. And that helps those break down so they're easier for our body to digest. And they're not kind of like attacking our gut, especially with how vulnerable our guts are at the moment with the pesticides on so many things and overly processed food. Go on about that, but I won't today. Number 12 is not filling my schedule, like not filling every gap in my schedule. And I used to do this. I am definitely a planner. I love seeing things on my calendar. I love writing in my calendar. I don't know if that's a type A thing, like a firstborn thing. But I love like writing in my calendar. Even if it's erasing something from my calendar. I love seeing my schedule for some reason. And I was addicted to that at one point, and I would just constantly put things in my calendar, like I'm going to meet with a friend here, and then right after that I'm going to, go on 5 different errands, and then I'm going to come back and do this, and like, on my day off, and just do all these certain things. And yes, there is a lot of things that are under my responsibility and that I prioritize, that I want to get done, that I need to get done. But I think there's something about just leaving space. There doesn't always need to be something, but just leaving extra space. One of my favorite ways to implement that is in the evenings, which doesn't happen every night. But when I get home from work, I'll eat dinner, and then now that it's summer and the sun is staying up later, and if the weather is nice, I love just laying out in the grass on a blanket with a book. I have many books that I'm reading right now, so any type of book, I'm always reading a book, and just watching the sunset. And I might not stay out there the whole evening, but I think that's one way that I choose to just really slow down and really be in nature, be outside, since I'm inside all day for my work, and just slow down, be in the present moment. And it's amazing like how slow time goes when I do that. Like I'll think I'll be out there for like an hour and a half, and I come in and it's only been like half an hour. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I could either go and sit outside longer, or I could go and do something else. So it's just like slows my nervous system down. And I think that's really important that we have space in our schedule. Number 13 is not filling every empty space with music or podcasts or an audiobook. Noise, consumption. I typically like to listen to a podcast or music, mostly podcasts, like on my drives into work and home from work. And when I'm home and I'm cooking, I like listening to a podcast. And normally I like to lean into my intuition on this, but there are definitely times where I feel just like I can't handle more stimulation, so I won't have anything playing, and it'll just be completely quiet. The natural sounds that are going around me, and that in and of itself is restful. And I think that I, like most people, are addicted to stimulation, to noise, to distraction. And So it's really hard to break out of that. And I would like to in the future do more of that, but that is something that I intentionally try to lean into when I feel the need to just shut off the podcast or the music. Um, and even just space, reading a book and just like being, just sitting, just existing, just being. So